Hello, folks. Welcome to the Raw Hospitality Show Season 2. We've had a little break, but while we're having that break, we're interviewing some extraordinary people. We've got about six interviews in the barrel right now. Some really fascinating subject matters. People in the industry that have pivoted, gone through the COVID struggles, which are kind of still here when this comes out. They're starting to fade a little bit in the US. But we had some great conversations with some awesome human beings. I can't wait to share the episodes with you. This is Season 2 in the barrel, ready to rumble. Ming's Bings. What does Ming's Bings mean? Well, you're going to find out in the next show. Celebrity chef Ming Tsai. He's not only an award winner on television, he's an award winner in his restaurants. He's a good human being. We talk about his food production, his life struggles, his gains, the most beautiful moments that he's had, and also we talk about his new venture. He's one of the most well-known and well-regarded and well-respected chefs in the country. Beat Bobby Flay. Can you believe that? We're going to rumble him a little bit next show, Ming Tsai, Season 2, the Raw Hospitality Show. I cannot wait to introduce you. Well, good morning or good afternoon or good evening. What time is it there? Ming Tsai, a great friend of the show. Where are you?
We are, it's 9:05 a.m. in Big Sky, Montana.
And you've got a beautiful view.
Yes, we do have beautiful views. One of the reasons Montana is where we're at is because of the mountains and the beautiful view. You may not know this. We haven't spoken in a while, Robert. I opened a restaurant out here in Big Sky called Baba.
Yes.
And you'd appreciate the history. So Baba is 88, right? The main dining room is an 8-sided dining room. And as you know, in feng shui principles, use a bagua, which is an 8-sided tool to steady energy. That's how 88 is written, right? Baba. So that's 8 and 8. So that's the 8-sided for the dining room.
Wow.
Baba also means father. So a lot of families, Tapa style, family style dining like Blue Dragon. Sure. And where I'm at, Baba's located in a place called Yellowstone Club, which actually has 2 mountain peaks. There's Pioneer and there's Lone Peak. So hence the 2 mountain peaks, that's Baba, the name of the restaurant.
Wow.
And
I've been following it. Tell the guests how long it's been open. You opened it last year?
We opened it December before COVID. So it was open from December to March. And then March, of course, this country, or all countries, closed down. Wow. And that was just one of the craziest experiences, right? For all of us. None of us, I don't think, have been through a world pandemic like this. And us restaurateurs, chefs, have never had our restaurant closed overnight, right? Sometimes there's a flood, a week, you're back, or whatever, fire, but not closed. And that the worst part is indefinitely. If you tell me or any good chef operator, you're done for 3 months, we'll jig it, boom, we reopen, we're fine. But when it's 3, 18, 24, no idea how long, that was the real crisis for us all, right? And fortunately out here at Big Sky, it's at private clubs. This is at a private club, and they because it's a private club, just made protocol so severe, which is weekly testing of all the staff, weekly testing of all the members. They really kind of built their safe bubble, and knock on wood, it's actually worked. And
do you think that's like going into that, because I'm part of the Noya House, which we just talked about before the show, at these private clubs, Noya House particularly, and yours, do you think this is a little bit of the future over the next 2-3 years? Because I feel like it's a safe place, right? Yeah,
I do. I think you have to show eventually that you're vaccinated, right? Sure. You have a Vax card. You're not going to be able to travel internationally without a vaccination passport, right? And I don't think you should be allowed into a restaurant without a vaccination. Sure. Because if you want to go and dine publicly, get vaccinated. It's your choice. Don't give me the right and the mask right and all that bullshit. You can choose not to go out, and that's your prerogative. But you're wearing a mask to protect everyone else around you. So just forget the stuff that it's my right to wear a mask or not. Bullshit. Yeah. It's your right to protect every other human being around you.
Yeah.
And stop. That's it. So I do think you're going to eventually need to get a vaccination to get into restaurants and keep it safe. I also think you can also, as restaurateurs, think about what we can do besides the mask and hands and all that. It's actually the air. Clean air is now the next commodity for the rest of our entire lives on this planet. And we just want clean air, period, right? And I've been to Beijing a bunch, right? Horrible pollution, which is one of the reasons every Chinese wears masks. But also because if I'm sick, I don't want to get you sick. So it's a twofer. And so the commodity clean air, we've never had it. In LA, we get it sometimes, it's smog for 3 days. We're like, oh, this is horrible, but then it clears out. But imagine living with that. So you're going to start thinking, okay, when I'm inside in my house with my babies and my wife and my kids, I want clean air. And there are some great systems coming out, and I'm going to plug one right now called Rensair, RENSAIR, US.com. So if you're United States, so Rensair is this awesome filtration system that is they're expensive. They're $3,500 a pop, but they're plug and play. You take it out of the box, you plug it in. It's patented, used in Scandinavian hospitals. Patented motor that sucks in high volume of air to the tune of 2,000 square feet. The air can be cleansed in 20 minutes, right?
Wow.
So very fast. And the most important part of the patent is it brings in, traps the COVID. The problem people have this misconception about UVC light. People are saying, we have UVC light in our air ducts. Well, that's great, but that air is passing through. You can't kill COVID by passing through. It's not a laser. It's not like zapping.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has to hold. So what this Rensair does is it holds the COVID, because it traps everything, HEPA 13, inside the inner diameter of the cylindrical filter, and then the UVC light hits it until it's killed. And then 99.97% air actually gets filtered out.
So you're going to put this, are you going to put this in your restaurant?
This is what it looks like.
Wow.
There it is. I have them in my homes. I have 4. They're so simple, right? This is on low. I'm just going to show you medium, high. That's it. That's all the system is. Air comes in the top, air comes out of the bottom. It is an awesome system. I have 4 in my restaurant here. I actually demanded it. I'm like, do you want me to work my restaurant? I want double the capacity to keep me safe. I literally have one on the line where I expedite. I put my coffee on it. I literally stand next to my Rensair.
No, because when you were talking about fresh air, I thought you were about to become like an ambassador for the mountain, and you're like, just move to Montana, you'll get fresh air. Okay. I was like, I was surfing in Los Angeles about 3 weeks ago, and I actually surfed in the mist and the fog at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's the only place in the world. As an Australian, you've been to Sydney. It's the only place in the world I'll surf in the dark, right? Because in Australia, you surf in the dark, you basically shark meat. And when the mist rose, the fresh air, and it was so beautiful and it was so clean, and I was like, I completely missed this. But I'm more jealous of where you are. So you've got these systems in your restaurant, in your kitchens, basically help to save your staff. Basically.
Absolutely, and actually, I have chef friends now buying these because they have small restaurants, and you just need one of these. And if you can put one in, because the problem right now with restaurants is you take your mask off when you eat.
Yep, sure.
You can't eat with the mask on. So, and waiters have to wear their masks. The waiters aren't safe because if one person at that Six Stop has COVID, for 1.5 hours, they're talking and it's getting spread in the air. So you got to cleanse that air, right?
Let's get the link from you and we'll add it to this show notes, and we'll get the executive producers to put it at the end, because that'd be great, because I'd like to know that as well, because we've taken over a small place.
Very proudly, you know me, Robert, there's always a charity component to this.
Of course.
So when Rensair has, for my pushing, says, look, we got to help, at least in the U.S. and probably everywhere else, but in the U.S. in particular, the immigrant restaurants, the African-American restaurants, Indigenous and Native American restaurants, they're women-owned restaurants. They're the ones that got crushed the worst.
Absolutely.
So Rensair started a program for every 10 Rensairs purchased. So people are buying 30 and 40 and 50 of them, like Augusta, right? For the masters, they put them in the media center, in the locker rooms, in the dining rooms. We have 60 of them here, right? And we have them all over the club. But for every 10 purchased, one is going to be donated to a restaurant in need. So
that's fantastic.
Just trying to get restaurants up, because no restaurant can afford a $3,500 thing, because that expense was never on the books to begin with. We never even thought about we need.
I mean, it was bad enough pre-COVID how to make money out of a restaurant. You've had a bunch of restaurants. We've opened and closed things, but we've never opened and closed things this dramatically, right? I want to go back to for the listeners that don't know you, because I know you're very well known, but for the people that don't know you, tell me how you started. Tell me about the first time you had a knife in your hand.
Yeah. That was a hell of a fight in grade school. No. So my first vivid culinary story. So I'm Chinese, right?
Yep.
So being Chinese, like being Italian, Mexican, Jewish, food. It's your culture, right? Everything's discussed at the dinner table. It's always, what are we eating next? And that's the way I grew up. But at age 5, I decided, I was by myself. My parents were gone. I decided to make a Duncan Hines cake. Never made a cake in my life, but I just liked, I was at 5. I just in the kitchen and I knew how to do eggs. I'm like, that can't be that hard. So all my friends are outside playing stickball, right? Giving me a little shit, to be honest, that I'm inside making a cake. Like, what's wrong with Ming, right? And I make the cake. It was delicious, super easy. I was so proud of myself that out of a powder, I got a cake. And then all my friends came in and says, oh, hey, can I get a slice? I'm like, yeah, sure, 25 cents. So my first restaurant. So they were laughing at me, and I walk away. I got $1.25 in my pocket. So I felt like freaking.
How did you even know? I mean, I got in trouble as a child by my mother, but before she passed, she used to give me shit about this all the time. I followed a recipe, but I was, typical man, don't want to read a recipe. I can do this. It's like, mechanics. And I stick a dozen eggs in a cake. And they're the only eggs we've got. There's a dozen eggs in the fridge, and I put a dozen eggs in the cake, and I was really proud of myself. I made this cake, and I think it was not 5. It wasn't that ambitious. I think it was like 11 or something. And I left the cake there, and it was heavy. It weighed like, 8 pounds or something. And I'm there, and my mother comes home, and she goes, oh, my God, you've baked. And I said, yeah, I baked a cake. She goes, it's really great. And I go, you want a slice? She goes, great. And she picks it up. She goes, what's in here, rocks? And I said, no. 20 minutes later, I hear her yelling my voice out, and I'm outside. And she's like, did you use a dozen eggs? And I got on my bike. I rode away. That was the first time. So what was the first time?
You took him out of the shell, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, no, I'm not that bad. So tell me about. Sorry, go.
Oh, I was going to say, so the significant story. So that was age 5. That's a cake mix, right? But that wasn't how I got the restaurant hospitality hook. Right. That happened at age 10. So I'm living in Dayton, Ohio. I have one brother, and in Dayton, Ohio back then, the doors were never locked, right? This is the peaceful time that we used to have. And a couple showed up at our door, and anyone that was older than me, if we knew them, was uncle and auntie. So this Caucasian couple showed up. My parents are gone. And in Chinese culture, when someone shows up, you meet someone on the street, you don't say, how are you? You say, churlama, which is, have you eaten? Because if not, it gives us an opportunity to eat together. So being Chinese and having heard this, I'm like, are you guys hungry? They're like, oh, we're starved. I'm like, good, sit down. I'll make you fried rice, which is all fine and dandy, except I had never made fried rice in my life before.
Or you who these people were.
Right. Yeah. But I knew they were uncle and auntie. I also was good with a cleaver, right? Chinese cleaver, because I would help my grandfather sharpen them. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, to sharpen a cleaver. So I was decent with a knife at 10. Every Chinese household has leftover fried rice. Of course, we have garlic, ginger, scallions, and eggs. So I did it. I fried the eggs. I made it. Honestly, it's about a 5 out of 10 in quality. I cheated a little bit, too much oil, so I didn't want to stick. I put too much soy sauce because I'm 10, but it didn't matter. They took a bite. I think, one, they're amazed that a 10-year-old could make food, but they smiled. I'm like, holy shit, you can make people happy through food? Okay, and that never left. It's the reason I'm a chef. It's exponentially more, because now it's not only can I make people happy through food, is I can make change and help people through food. Right. And that's what resonates with me more than anything at all. I mean, I want to make people happy, including myself, through food. But through food, you can raise money, raise awareness. You can do products, and I think I'll go to my grave knowing that I used my platform as a chef, as effectively as possible, right? I mean,
it was like Anthony Bourdain once said, and I think we all loved him. Your storytelling, right? You're telling a story when you cook for somebody. And I remember Marco Pierre White, famously said, coming into my restaurant and criticizing my food is like me coming to your house for dinner and criticizing your wife's hair. And I thought,
which he probably did, actually.
Knowing him, he probably did, and he still probably does. But you don't, this is something that I've talked to a lot of chefs about. People don't realize how profoundly you can affect somebody by constructively criticizing or negatively criticizing, and there's two ways, right? Such an emotional game.
While we're on this, and we won't spend more than 2 minutes because it's not worth it. But when social media hit our world,
Sure.
And then you get these super Yelpers. I don't even know what the hell they're called. I'm a Yelp Platinum. You better give me a free meal. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I don't even know what that is.
What planet, because you're an influencer, that's the word of the year, right? And you have 1,500 followers, ooh, big deal, that you're going to get a free meal out of me. I mean, granted, 5 million followers and you're Justin Timberlake, he doesn't ask me for a free meal. He gets it, right? It's just people threatening chef owners like, if you don't give me a blah, 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 I'm going to write something bad about you. It's just absurd.
It's a funny world. I think every now and then we're allowed to blow a gasket, in our minds. I think I was having this laugh with somebody the other day. I was in a friend's restaurant and he had a call from someone and they asked if they could bring their own cake for a birthday and could they bring BYO their own wine. And I laughed and I said, all we make money out of is the liquor and the food side, and they want to bring both. And he said to them on the phone, it was old Italian, I won't say where because he was actually trying to be charming, but I don't think he was. He said, look, if you're going to bring your own food and bring your own wine, why don't you bring your own restaurant? And he just hung up on them, like people don't realize that, this industry is, look, most industries now with social media have a critique side. And I think that it's fascinating to me because I have a friend of mine who's a famous comedian in Australia, Mick Malloy, and he said to me once 10 years ago, he said, it's the same thing. I'm in front of 10,000 people. I'm live on stage, and the only person I'm focused on is that one person not laughing. That's the only person that affects me. And it's kind of like a restaurant. You have a great service and everything's going great, and then one person writes a bad review and disrupts that entire moment. But I think at our age now, we're kind of, it's skin off off the back of a camel. You know, does it really matter that much anymore if we've got a full restaurant and our clients are telling us face value that they love it or they dislike it? At least we know they're being real. So tell me about the love of your life restaurant. What was the one restaurant that you still miss that you opened? Because you and I have had a bunch of restaurants.
Oh, that's easy. That's Blue Ginger. Blue Ginger was my first restaurant that I owned. From the first piece of paper, right? The whole concept, raised all the money. Wife was a partner, a lot of friends, family partner. We had an awesome 19-year run, and which for those not in the restaurant world, anything over 5 is awesome. More importantly, 19 years of profitability, not 9. Some people run 19 years, but they lose money the last 10 years. That's not as good.
But that restaurant years are kind of like dog years, right? 19 years is like being a 75-year-old dog.
If I felt like it, so very proudly, I wanted to close on top. And I had, it was funny, is year 19 was when my lease was up because I got a couple free years in the beginning. Anyway, so it was under consideration. Do I sign up for another 10? And it was the hardest decision in my head and my heart because I literally made a family. We had 13 marriages out of Blue Ginger. We have 7 children, not my children. I do have 2 children of my own, but 7 Blue Ginger children, people married within, right? So it's not cliche to say restaurant family is a family. It's a true family, right? We're talking about building something. So my waiters and cooks had been with me for that 19 years, literally saw their lives grow and my lives grow, right? I had no children when I opened Blue Ginger. Now they're 20 and 18 now, right?
Handsome boys too, working out with you all the time I see as well.
Yeah, Henry's actually cooking with me at Baba. He's a pretty good little cook. Good. And he's enjoying it. He's smart enough not to want to be a chef, though, which
that's good.
I've dissuaded.
Talk him out of that. Look, just tell him to be really rich. Yeah, tell him to be really rich and buy a restaurant. He can lose a bunch of money.
Exactly.
And then he'll just be fine. But
he actually said yesterday, he goes, I want to make sure I have, he goes, I don't care if I'm rich. I just want to make sure I can be able to always eat good food. I think that's a great philosophy in life, right? Because it's not a money thing.
I agree.
It's what you put into your body. And if you can afford to put good stuff into your body, your life's pretty good.
I think it's kind of like a restaurateur's philosophy. It's generally great meal, a nice bottle of wine, not an expensive bottle of wine, a nice bottle of wine and enough for a cab ride home was a real 1980s thing. That was our measure. If we could do that on our night off, life is pretty good. Let me ask you something. I want to pivot away for a second because it made me think about something I wrote in my notes. The Me Too movement. You had that many marriages in your restaurant. How is that going to differ? Because most people in the hospitality industry meet their lovers or their friends in the hospitality industry because we do so many hours. What's going to change now? Because think about it like this. How hard is it for somebody to ask somebody out on a date without claiming sexual harassment or whatever? Because in those days...
I think I think the clear line in my head is you can't ask someone that works for you, a subordinate.
Yep.
Right. If you're waiter and cook, you're all the same level, so to speak. There's no sexual harassment. I mean, I'm not saying if you're line cooking, you do something bad to a girl that's sexual harassment. I'm just saying it gets very gray when you're the manager and she works for you, or you're the manager and he works for you, because then you're using the power that you're not going to get Friday and Saturday shifts and stuff. So that's when it becomes you're using your power, and you see that with Governor Cuomo right now in this country, that people of power abuse it and know that, they'll be so scared they won't say anything. Well, that's not happening anymore. I mean, I said it. Let's talk about backfire. I said it day one of the Blue Ginger. I says, look, guys, I know it's the industry. We're going to be 16 hours a day together or whatever. And it totally backfired. I'm like, I really would prefer you don't intermingle.
Meanwhile, everybody just said, let's just get married. That way you can't fire us.
Let's just, And I told my managers, and they actually took it to heart. I'm like, but if you are going to start dating, then you have to date and then marry the person.
Okay, that's
and
a big
commitment. Did. Okay. My GM and exec chef, boom, they got together. Wow. I find out a year later. We're dining at Charlie Trotter's of all things. JD's like, hey, chef, no, he gets a phone call. And I'm like, is that Paula? He's like, oh, yeah, chef, I want to tell you something. He says, I found out.
Isn't it amazing, though, when you're so close to your staff, how we can be so dumb with that stuff, and then all of a sudden I had the same in my restaurant. Yeah. In Icebergs in Sydney, I have 3 staff right now, and between them they have 14 children. 3 staff, 14 children. It's like, what were you guys eating? It was like your staff meals. And I'm like, wow. It's interesting because the whole Me Too movement swept through New York as I arrived about 3.5, 4 years ago. It needed to happen. It was prevalent. I never really saw it in my restaurants. I had, a bunch of restaurants at one point where I had about 450 staff. And I think back and I reflect, we all do, right? Do we think about not necessarily our own behavior, but did we overlook something? Did something happen in our restaurant? And I realized in my venues, we had no issues as far as we knew, because I, by pure chance, had a lot of females running my organization. That doesn't mean you can't have sexual harassment, but it was just because they were good at what they did. I wonder now in the industry how that's changed and shaped your industry. How have you seen it change and shape your industry in say, the restaurant world?
Yeah, I think there's a great effort, and I so agree with you, Robert. It's so needed, right? I mean, any harassment is just wrong. I don't care if it's sexual, racial, anything. All harassment's wrong. And I think you touched on one thing that does make sense is you want to hire the best people, and it's unfortunate maybe for some male GMs, but if I have an equally qualified female and male GM equally qualified, you're going to sway towards the female for that same reason that females sexually harass men a lot less often than men harass women. That's just fact, right? That's just a fact. So all things created equal, you're going to hire the best qualified person, but if they're equal, you're going to go with the female. And because there's a lot of us in the industry are on the good side of this, that we understand this completely. Just like the whole Black Lives Matter movement as well, right? I'm on, I can probably say I'm on the good side of this, right? I understand the struggles that women and Blacks and Jews and everyone else that had when they got to this country. I mean, women were always here. It's never been fair. It's never been right. And finally, I think we hit rock bottom, and I finally think we're coming that us males are realizing not only women are equal to us, they're actually smarter and better than us.
That's no shit.
Get as many women. I mean, dude, I started a new company, and we're going to talk about it, Ming's Bings. I'm like 80% women. They're just smarter. So
well, it was really interesting because I had a guest on, Marlene Leslie. She's a great executive. She opened the Virgin Hotel. She was running the Standard in New York, and at age 23, she was running a $20 million venue in Times Square. 23 years old. And I said to her, and I asked her, was that, the Me Too movement in your era, that was pretty loose, the Standard was, known to be a party place. And she didn't actually defend herself and say, well, I'm a woman, never happened. She actually said, yeah, it kind of probably did happen. And she said it's kind of the norm, and we just accepted it the way that happened. And for her, she never had too much of an issue because she'd been a leader since 23. Right. So she'd always been in charge of people. But it was refreshing to hear somebody not to say, "Oh, I didn't know it happened. It was ignorant." And I honestly think that it's for the better. I completely agree with you. But I also really do feel for our teams now because, if you think in the corporate world, and I'm partly in the corporate world, there's an element of, do you really want to ask her out on a date anymore? Does she really want to ask you out on a date anymore? And we're both working 80 hours a week. I don't have that issue, but, you're working 80 hours a week. Where are they supposed to meet someone? And you know what chefs are like. You finish at 11, 12 o'clock. That's it. That's most people's 5 p.m. You don't go home and sleep. You go and have a beer and you're going to have a drink at a bar. And then before you know it, you're looking at the same person you've looked at for the last 6 months because you haven't seen anybody else, and it makes sense. So it did have to happen though. So I think that's important. I want to ask you a couple of probing questions before we talk about your new ventures because you've got a lot of them. 2012, am I going to get this date wrong? Did you beat Bobby Flay at Iron Chef?
No, sir. I crushed Bobby Flay on Iron Chef. It was actually, I was so proud. First of all, it was Battle Duck. All right. So I had the pressure of the entire Asian community of the world. If a Chinese chef loses Battle Duck to a Caucasian, I would have been ostracized from every Chinese restaurant in the world. I'd be like, hey, you lost to that white guy in Battle Duck. It would have been horrible. I'd be taking my kids to Mexican food every Sunday instead of dim sum.
You would have been cooking in Antarctica after that. Just
so I had that pressure.
Wow. What was that like?
But yeah, it was a highlight. Oh my God. First of all, full disclosure, Iron Chef, all these, they're really hard, right? This is not smoke and mirrors. You got and then 1 hour, for me, 1 hour to make 5 dishes times 4 plates each, 20 plates in an hour, right? Starting from scratch. We didn't have a sauce done. You have nothing. But what we do have, and this is just full disclosure, 1 month out, Food Network gave you 3 secret ingredients. So you could at least plan. So for me, it was chicken, duck, and squab. Yep. So with my team, hey guys, so we practiced. We had 20 whole chickens in the window on the Sunday we were closed, and we would make these dishes. And then the next day we did it with the next week's swab, and then finally with duck. I also knew that because you have to give an equipment list, and I said I need a air compressor, right? A Black & Decker air compressor. And I also need a Food Network's TV for ratings. They don't see a lot of ducks blowing up on TV. So I'm like, guys, it's going to be Battle Duck. I just guarantee. So let's really focus on that. And sure enough, it was Battle Duck. And,
amazing.
Peking duck takes 48 hours. So to do Peking duck in an hour.
I would have never, I don't know if I've cooked in a lot of places and, sure, we've all had a bunch of awards, but I don't know if I'd have the balls to do a show like you did. I love the original Iron Chef. It's kind of like watching Doctor Who right now. The original Iron Chef is so ridiculously fun. And the dramatics and his outfit.
And the translations, like, Fukui-san, the Iron Chef is using tomatoes back to you. I love Uni. The dumb blonde Japanese girl. I love Uni. That's so funny.
I had the host at the Icebergs restaurant when I had it in Bondi. I had the host in there for 2 days in a row eating at the restaurant, and he was
chairman?
Yeah.
Yeah, the chairman?
I did.
Nice.
And he was nothing obviously like the show because it's a show, right? And he was the most gentle, calm, collective, and he painted me this beautiful picture, and I never forget it. I've got it framed. I still love that show. Secondly, you've got an Emmy Award.
Correct.
So I'm looking this up. What did you get an Emmy Award for? I know, but
yeah, it's so ironic. So I started on Food Network way early. It was Emerald, Bobby, myself, Mario, Sarah, and I became the Asian expert. I knew the power of TV, so I did one quick hit on a show, and they're like, "Hey, that wasn't so bad. It was Ready, Set, Cook. Remember the cooking competition you had? It was me against Susur Lee, who you may know. He's one of the best chefs in Canada. Fantastic friend of mine. And I knew this is not an opportunity to just show my cooking skill and win. We didn't win. We tied 2 wins each, and we tied and split it. But it was my opportunity to show Food Network that I can actually, I do more than just slice and dice. So I was throwing tomatoes to the audience, and I was really trying to that. Because of that, can you come back? Can you come back? So I kept coming back. Eventually, they gave me East Meets West. The very first show I did was a Chipotle shumai show, and I made smoked turkey Chipotle. I remember it was my first show ever. That's the show they submitted to the Emmys. The first show, episode 1, season 1, first show, they submit that one. Maybe because it was the freshest. I don't know why. And my agent called me and says, "Hey, you've been nominated for an Emmy." I thought he was joking. Like, what are you talking about?
Not
no,
for
no,
the
no.
first show.
You're
No
nominated
way.
for an Emmy. I'm like, with who? He goes, Julia Child, Martha Stewart,
Jesus.
Bob Vila, and Brian Nye, the science guy. So I'm like, oh, well, it's great to be nominated, right? I mean, there's no chance.
Yeah.
And then
they're just throwing me in the mix. They're throwing me in the mix.
They needed, I think they needed an Asian to win her. I don't know what it was, but sure enough, I'm at the Emmys and they announced me. I'm like, are you kidding me? And so,
do you understand
and that was very proudly, that was the first Emmy for Food Network too.
Do you understand how important it is to be nominated by, out of everybody, but Julia Child? Like,
oh my God. Can we talk about her a little bit? So
go for it.
You know me, I do not get nervous.
Yeah.
But when Julia Child came into Blue Ginger, oh man, I got nervous. I'm like, you kidding me? And so I, of course, as best as I possibly cook, I like, first, you'd love this first course. Just tuna 2 ways. It was hot tuna poke underneath a martini glass upside down. And on top was a tuna caviar parfait raw. Yep. So you couldn't see what's underneath because it all condensed up and fogged up. I'm like, Julia, please eat the raw sashimi grade tuna, blah, blah, blah. And then lift a martini glass and you have a hot poke. So it's killer dish. So I do that. I do another dish. I do the foie gras shumai dish, right? Steamed foie gras dumplings and a caramelized soft turned shallot broth. I'm like, okay, this is it. So the waiter's like, Miss Child, like to see you. I'm like, oh my God. Was it the best foie gras you have had? Was the most creative presentation? I'm just in my head, like, what is she going to say? You know, her dish was finished because I always look at the plates, right?
Of course,
so I knew it wasn't like your dish. So it was horrible. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, Julia. And the first thing she said, I have an open kitchen. She goes, Ming, you don't have any women line cooks. I'm like, oh my God. That's the first thing she says to me. And I'm like, Julia, you're right. And it's not because I don't love women. I actually married one. I love women, but there's just not enough women line cooks and chefs in this country yet. This is, 23 years ago. Yeah. But of all the things, I'm just thinking all these great accolades I'm going to get. You don't have any women line cooks, but she did have a great meal. And after
I remember growing up with her recipes. I never watched the movie because I felt like it was going to be ruined. Was it good? Have you watched it?
I have watched. Yeah, it was very entertaining. It really was. And they played Julia pretty well, honestly, right? I've gotten to cook for Julia and Jacques a couple of times, and both the most lovely people in the world, right? I mean, Jacques literally is the best technician still, and the most amazing palate, and the most amazing artist. I mean, the guy can do everything practically.
For the record, for the audience, when you say Jacques, who are you talking about? Just so
I'm talking about Jacques Pépin. Yeah. So Jacques Pépin was famously the only chef in the world to turn down a president of the United States to go work for Howard Johnson's instead, right? Yep. He turned down JFK because he wanted to work as a corporate chef with Howard Johnson's, which is an up and coming. It was a great move for him, actually. It really,
and he's a beautiful. I know he recently lost his wife, which is sad, and he's a beautiful chef. And I absolutely love seeing his recipes on Sunday because he cooks. Like I've lost my my parents, and when I watch his Sunday recipes, it's always beautiful, and he doesn't trick anything up, and he keeps it super simple, and it's so beautiful. Simple. Yeah, I think we need to get.
I mean, he is literally. I remember I went to he has a beautiful house in Connecticut, and pétanque, right? Boule, which is the ball, the European game where we play it. You throw the ball.
I'm Italian Australian, so we call it bocce.
Yeah, exactly, bocce.
We invented it, of course.
The Chinese invented it. You changed the name, but whatever.
We invented spaghetti too. But
so he would have tournaments, right? He would have tournaments. So it was just the tournament was a conduit to have great food and wine, right?
Sure.
So I came up one Sunday. It was the finals of their tournament. So all the neighbors, right? These guys have been doing this for 20 years. The wine's flowing like anything. And so he has his house, and then he has his house that he shoots at, right? So kind of like Martha has as well. And so I'm like, Jacques, I brought some stuff to cook as well, right? I'm not going to show up to Jacques Pépin and not cook. So I'm making like shrimp toast or shumai or something. And there's like 60 people. And Jacques is in the kitchen, and he has his son-in-law, and he has people all around him. But he literally cooked for 2.5 hours straight. He's like, people come, Jacques, can you help? No, ça va. And he would cook and plate everything. He wouldn't allow people to help him because he's that much of a purist, and it's like, nope, this is my food. It has to be perfect. This is a Sunday bocce tournament. He's that focused. I was like, oh my God, that is just unbelievable. And not that I get sloppy on a Sunday, but I need to plate every single dish? No, I don't. But
I think for somebody like him, I mean, I get it. You know, sometimes when you're in your zone, it's easier to do it yourself than to explain it, because that's where the fun is.
It is so much easier.
Because what's hard about our industry is actually not the cooking bit. The hard bit is teaching other people to cook it that way. You have to have incredible patience, resilience, and do they ever make it? You know, occasionally, and it does happen for both of us, we have people that are just better than us. Right? They're just, and that's what we want to 100%. Surround ourselves. You know, you have a recipe, and you know, I often do this. I'll do this when I was working in Australia with the QT hotels. You know, I would fly in and I would have tastings with the chefs, and I would send them recipes, and they would put their dishes up as well for the seasonal changes. And I would send them a recipe, and occasionally the chef would put it up, and it was 100 times better than what I made.
And you use it though, right?
Yeah, and of course. And I'd look at them and I'd go, that's pretty good, you know. And all of a sudden, they'd taken a dish that I'd been doing for 10 years and they bettered it because they were thinking outside the box. And it's a huge risk, right? Because sometimes when they're younger, they take a few lefts and rights, and you go, hang on. Because I'm like you, I do tweak my Italian heritage, but I still stay true to the roots when something has to be pure. I think you and I, when did we cook together? We cooked together for your show in Sydney. Was that like 2013, 2014?
Yeah, it was at least, I was going to say almost 10 years ago, probably 8 years ago, a really long time ago.
I remember you cooked a pilaf, and was it quail? Did you cook quail?
I did crispy quail. I did crispy quail pilaf. Yeah,
crispy quail pilaf in the beautiful Gowings restaurant that we just opened. We just won best new restaurant. That was great fun.
Oh yeah, that great kind of grill. Yeah, gigantic thing.
And that ridiculous tuna that I had this dream.
Oh, you had the huge tuna. Oh, the tuna was awesome. Yeah,
I had that dream.
For the record, the best part about that shoot all was the meal that Robin cooked for us afterwards.
You're very generous.
One of that's one of the best parts of shooting shows with chefs, because they always are going to feed you afterwards. Which
of course, it was
super
fun.
Our favorite part.
Thank you for
saying that. Let me tell you a quick story about creating a dish and someone making it better. So you know these chefs. So Thomas Keller.
Sure.
When he first opened French Laundry, one of his best sous chefs was Grant Achatz, right? Mm-hmm. And Grant's a buddy. They're both buddies of mine. And Grant really he's one of the best chefs in this country. He's at the level of Thomas now, right?
Yeah.
Thomas being the matriarch or the patriarch. Grant came up with a dish. It was a version of his current truffle explosion. It was a dish that was going to explode and melt and whatnot. And he was so proud. And he's just like, chef, try this. And chef tried it, goes, this is phenomenal. He goes, let's put it on the menu. And he looked at him and says, Grant, I would love to put this on the menu, but just know that once this is on the menu, it's my dish, because this is going to be served at French Laundry by Chef Thomas Keller. Yeah. And are you okay with that? Because at this point in my, and I respect Thomas for this, because he was just being very transparent and honest, because at that time, you're not going to say lead line cook's dish and put it on the menu, right?
Of course.
And Grant very famously said, and you have to have this confidence. He's like, chef, absolutely, put it on the menu. There's going to be many more like that in my career.
Wow.
And he was right. And there was. But you need that confidence. You have to believe that I can make the best bite in the world every time you cook. You have to believe that.
I agree with you. And I think, like, every year we were doing a dinner in Australia. It was Tom Coloccio would come. It was Thomas Keller. Colicchio. That's my Australian accent. Heston Blumenthal.
Your Italian-Australian accent.
Italian-Australian accent. Heston Blumenthal, Thomas Keller. And I remember Thomas, particularly, I remember all he wanted to do when he arrived in Australia was go play golf. And there was this very famous golf course that was members only, and I knew someone
Sydney or Melbourne?
In Sydney, in the North Shore, and we got him in for a golf game, and then I prepared him lunch, and I remember he was such a beautiful, gentle human being, and he would arrive, he would fly in, long flight, everybody knows to Australia is 25 hours. He would arrive in, he would sit in my bar, have a crab sandwich. We had this beautiful, beautiful crispy crab sandwich and a glass of champagne. He goes, okay, now I'm here. And it was because we were right on the beach. And I remember with him, he was an incredible soul. One of the best meals of my life was at the French Laundry. Back to you, Chef of the Year in Esquire.
That was an accolade that I was not expecting. So John Mariani was the Esquire foodie at large, and he would dine at like 100 new restaurants every year. And he came, again, Blue Ginger was in Wellesley, Mass. So that's a small suburb out of Boston, very affluent. It's like the Greenwich, Connecticut kind of New York. And I purposely built out there because I wanted, honestly, I wanted a lifestyle of a suburban restaurant versus a city restaurant, meaning not cooking till 1 a.m., cooking till 9:30, because I knew I wanted to have kids and a family. So for me,
that's smart.
You can do it. You can't have a normal, well, not normal. You can't have a very tight family life and great marriage and children in this chef world, but you have to make it the priority. If I let the food and restaurant take me over, then you're going to have a mess, right? You have to have a partner that understands the hours and the demands too.
Sure.
If that partner doesn't know that succinctly, it also is not going to work because you're not home for dinner a lot. So anyway, I forgot what I was talking about.
No. We were talking about your award. I was talking
so John Marionette comes in. He comes in, and it was actually a slow night, and we just fed him the normal. I mean, I knew who he was. We feed him his best food as he possibly can. And then literally like 2 weeks later, because it was towards the end of him doing his tour, he's like, we're sending a photographer to shoot you for Esquire. I'm like, what's it for? He says, we can't tell you, but doesn't matter. If they're shooting you, it's a good sign.
Time to go to the gym.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I stood up straight.
I know, you're fit anyway, so you don't have to.
And somehow of all the chefs, that I won Chef of the Year. And,
incredible.
And I'm so humbled and honored because bluntly, Robert, there's so many chefs that can actually cook me under the table in this country. There's so many. But you said it earlier. It's the right moment, right time, and the right story. Right. Sure. You have to tell your story. And if you just catch it the right moment, and that 1998 was just a banner year for me. Right. I started on Food Network. I had my first book deal. I opened my restaurant. I get chef. It was just like mind boggling how a lot happened.
And been inducted in the Hall of Fame. That's another one. We got a big list of them. So I won't. Let me ask you something. Tell me about what you're doing now. You've got an incredible new company.
Thank you. I have a great new company. We literally opened a month before COVID started. And something I've really always wanted to do is something called Ming's Bings. So you can go to mingsbings.com. And there's a great backstory, which is, and this story ends up happy. So know that. But 3.5 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer out of the blue. She had a seizure. We don't why? What's going on? She didn't smoke, of course, right?
Wow.
We don't give lung cancer to people that smoke, right? And fortunately, she had what was called an EGFR mutation. I am now a lung cancer expert. EGFR mutation was a good one to get, if there's a good cancer to get, because it qualified her for a oral therapy called Tagrisso, developed at Dana-Farber, the hospital in Boston that is known for cancer research. So that pill, once a day, wiped her cancer out. She's cancer-free.
Wow.
The story is awesome.
Oh, my God. Congratulations.
But 3.5 years ago as well, I was still traveling a lot. Yep. One thing we decided for her collectively, and she was already a flexitarian, more plant-based, she went vegan. All the research we discovered that if you can eliminate sugar as well, there's, eliminate sugar and eliminate proteins that cause inflammation, and try to reduce wheat even a little bit, gluten, because that's inflammation. Inflammation causes all diseases.
Sure.
And sugar feeds cancer. So that's why you got to eliminate those. So we went vegan. We juiced every morning, watercress, ginger juices. We would cook, of course, I'm a chef, so we would tofu and tempeh and all this. But I wanted to also be able to go to the stores and buy her some veggie patties because I travel. So I need my wife to eat well when I'm home and not home. Dude, there's nothing.
And it's worse than eating protein.
Oh my God. They're dry hockey pucks. All the brands, Gardein, Boga, the Dr. Prager's, they're all these hockey pucks. And every photo, this is all telling, every photo of every box of these patties is lettuce and tomato and avocado and a bun and aioli, because that's the only way you can choke these down. So it became my mission. It says, I'm going to make a better veggie patty. I'm going to flip the paradigm, put the emulsification on the outside. So don't puree stuff. Do whole veg. So I developed a gluten-free brown rice wrapper, primarily brown rice, lots of other stuff, but primarily brown rice wrapper, gluten-free.
Right.
I stir watercress, one of the tastiest and healthiest green vegetables in the world. Edamames, GMO-free with pepitas for smart fat and protein. Shiitake mushrooms to build your immune system, especially during COVID. And then garlic, ginger, onions, all for antioxidants. That is wrapped in the gluten-free, self-oiled. So when you get home and buy them, it's a frozen tuna pack. You put it in your air fryer for 14 minutes, in your oven for 22, flip it once, or a pan for 16, you flip it once. Super easy to cook, and it is delicious, which is the most important thing, but truly good for you because it's whole veg. And if you go to the website, you can see when you cut them open, you see the pepitas and the edamames and the watercress. And so that's been very exciting. So our mantra is that, it's taste good, feel good, because we all know that the more plant-based foods you eat, the better you're going to feel, right? You should not eat a ribeye every day.
No, absolutely.
That's what we do in Asia.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking I need to talk to you after the show. I need to get these into the Neuhaus group because we're actually doing that. We're looking for that. And it's kind of interesting, all this fake meat, Beyond Meat, and I'm not going to bag any of the meats out there, but they're full of things you don't know what they are. So we've gone from not eating protein to not knowing what we're eating at all.
Yeah, the growing of heme in a lab, I'm not sure that's going to be good for us 10 years from now. There are brands now like Uncut, who's the brand I use, because I've already iterated. So we have the original Bing, which is my favorite, but we've done a buffalo cauliflower Bing. Also, the whole line is vegan.
Bings.
Ming's Bings. And the buffalo cauliflower, all vegan. So we have a coconut-based cheese for the buffalo cauliflower, cream cheese.
Yep.
We have a sausage and peppers, a delicious sausage made by Uncut. So there's Impossible, Beyond, and then Uncut, the third largest. Their ingredient list is this big versus their ingredients, everyone else. So to your point, you can pronounce and identify every ingredient in it. It's GMO-free soybeans and blah, 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 spices. So it's as natural for a fake meat as you can get. And I agree with you. I don't want to use stuff that has chemicals that you can't pronounce and trimide, disomides, all that. No, I want to keep it as natural as possible. So this vegan sausage and pepper is off the hook. We have a cheeseburger coming online in a month.
Wow.
And then eventually, and I'm going to work with Uncut and develop a really good fake chicken and a good fake pork. It's all about texture because us chefs can flavor it. And then every Chinese stir fry that you and I love, sweet and sour pork, General Joe's chicken, Gumbao chicken, they can all go in the Bing and you can drive a car and eat it. I want it to be the next Hot Pocket, the next healthy, vegan, delicious Hot Pocket. That's my goal.
And that's fantastic. And the timing right before COVID, because everybody.
The timing was absurd. It was the most. For me, it was the stars aligned. I've always wanted to do this project, but as you know, as a chef, the Aspen Food and Wine Fest, South Beach Food and Wine Fest. You got to do this shoot. You can never focus. You can't start a company part-time. It just doesn't work. Because then you get a part-time company.
It's interesting because every hospitality person has said the same thing. COVID, for the first time in their life, and we're talking careers of 30, 40 years, first time in their life where we've been able to stop, A, get a night off, B, wake up the next day without an alarm for a period of time. Not everybody, but a lot of people out in restaurant world, working 5-6 days a week, 80, 90 hours. Yep. And I've known a lot more chefs now that have pivoted like you and said, what do I really want to do? I created this show during COVID. The executive producer approached me and said, we should do this, right? And I was like, how am I going to create a show to basically embrace people like you and give a message to the world of hospitality that we're there for them?
Yeah. So let me finish the one part of Ming's Bings, and I'll tell you about my show. So the third thing, so taste good, feels good, but then also do good, because some proceeds of the sale of Ming's Bings are going to benefit Dana-Farber, the cancer hospital, saved my wife's life and saved my CEO's life, and an awesome charity called Family Reach. So all check out familyreach.org. Family Reach. We're the only national charity. I'm proudly their president of their national advisory board. I've been with them 10 years. We're the only national charity that financially helps families with cancer. Financially helps families with cancer. We're not talking about outside of healthcare. Thank God we have Obamacare, right? We don't have national healthcare like you all in Australia and everywhere else. But we do have some healthcare. It's all the other expenses that happen when you get cancer. The kid gets cancer. The mom stops working. People just go bankrupt. And that's just wrong. Cancer is the worst diagnosis you can get.
It's crazy here. I pay a fortune a month in healthcare. And that I generally don't use, and it doesn't cover the things you want anyway. Really? It's kind of funny even in New York. Going to the dentist, it's cheaper to fly to Italy, get free healthcare, pay for it in cash, and come back on the plane, and it's still cheaper than going around the corner.
That's
it's pretty wild.
Let me tell you, real quick. So the thing that I pivoted like you did your show. So I'm now currently shooting Simply Ming season 18, right? But I'm doing it 2 ways. every Tuesday for 13 weeks, I've shot a live Facebook cook-along. And I set up a DSLR camera. That's a one camera for the Facebook live shot. Half the shows are with my son. We also have another DSL set up and a couple GoPros. Those cards, so the show airs. I just did one yesterday. That was live, and people can cook along, right? And we had hundreds cooking along, which is awesome. You can buy 2 pieces of salmon, buy some miso, buy some boom, cook along, and it's a true half hour. And you make the dish, and then you sit down, you get to eat it. That we then take the 4 cards of the other cameras, and that goes to GBH where we will re-edit it, and then that's going to air on PBS in April. So I'm hitting the demographics of Facebook, cook along, and then I'm going to hit the demos of a television show, which because TV is still important. It was like TV's done. TV is not done. TV is still here for a very long time. Social media is here for a long time now too. But you got to be able to go tandem.
So what about if you do a cook along and you get Bobby Flay to get on and you do that duck dish for him? We should do that. We should do that. He'll hate me for that
duck
one.
Duck class for Bobby Flay.
Yeah. No.
I'm not sure Bobby would come on.
No, I'm not sure either. We should get you to LA. We should get you involved with us. We're doing a whole bunch of things. You're fantastic. Give me 2 seconds. I want to know about this restaurant you're sitting in right now. Tell the audience what you're doing.
All right, so my restaurant's Baba. Baba is my East-West restaurant at a place called Yellowstone Club. My signature dish is a tea-smoked Peking duck, which I just love. I've combined 2,000-year-old techniques that have made both of them. And we have this great, you'd love it, Robert, this rotisserie, that's vertical rotisserie that circles. It's the most beautiful duck and delicious. And I'm blessed because I'm in the mountains. And for me and my wife and my kids, the mountains are just so grounding. Right. Yep. You're grounded in the mountains. And I don't care about, yes, Florida and New York are going to be gone in 100 years or whatever with water, but mountains have always felt good to me. So I know I'm very blessed to be out here. But I still live in Boston. I still go back and forth.
Sure.
We got to make a lot of Ming's Bings, right? So
right.
Anyway.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much. And just for the record,
thank you, buddy.
Thanks for just being an awesome human being, always giving back, always thinking about charity. I'm watching you planking, which is starting to scare me. I'm wondering if there's something you're going on that I don't understand. And only because I'm jealous, I look at you and I'm like, how does he eat all that and stay so slim? And I'm running.
You got to plank.
You got to plank. And it's great seeing your boys involved as well with cooking, and they kind of put up with you. They kind of look like they want to be on the camera and kind of like Dad's making them. I'm not really sure.
They just want to make fun of me. It's classic teenagers. Make fun of Dad.
Amazing to have you on the
Robert,
show.
Thank you, man. Really great to see you. And hopefully we'll see you with a good pint of beer next time, shall we?
That's how it sounds great.
That's our business. All right. God bless, dude. Thank you.
Bye.
Peace and good eating, man. We'll see you soon. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
All right, folks, that's it for today's show. If you love what we do, we'd appreciate if you follow, share, and like us. We love our listeners. We love you. The Raw Hospitality Show, Season 2.